Hello, today we will recap an action thriller movie from 2010, titled The Next 3 Days. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy. Late at night in the middle of town, college professor John Brennan drives his car nervously with a dying man in the passenger seat. Then we see a flashback of his story. 3 years ago, John was living in a lovely suburban home with his wife Laura and son Luke. One morning, after getting her usual insulin injection, Laura finds a bloodstain on her jacket. She rushes to the sink to wash it. But before she can finish, the cops storm into the house and arrest her for murder. Laura is sentenced to life in prison, and John is left to raise Luke alone. He believes his wife is innocent, but he lacks proof. One night, John receives a phone call informing him that Laura has been admitted to the hospital. After arguing with the cop and the doctor, he's finally allowed to see her for a few minutes. He finds her handcuffed to the bed and with a bandage around her wrist, which gives him a clue as to what she did. At that point, John decides he'll do whatever it takes to get Laura out of jail. He begins by reading books about prison escapes, and arranges a meeting with a former inmate who has escaped 7 times. The prisoner does not believe John's story about this being college research, but he does offer him some advice in exchange for money. When John gets home, he takes over a wall and starts sketching his plan with a map, pictures, clues, and calculations. When he visits Laura in jail, he notices details such as the lift having a keyhole, workers arriving to repair a leak in the ceiling, and which trucks stop by every day. To obtain the fake papers, John begins buying drugs in a criminal neighborhood, and asks the dealers for any contacts who know how to make good passports. It takes him a few attempts, before he finds a guy who tells him to go to a pub to find the right man. John inadvertently falls into a trap. Mike, a strange guy sitting at the bar, is watching all of this. He returns to the criminal neighborhood a few days later, and this time, he's followed by 2 bikes. When he returns home, he hears the doorbell ring and sees Mike, who offers him his services. John gives him some photographs and money in advance, before asking Mike not to return to his house again. The pickup will take place somewhere else. Mike agrees, and advises John to flee if he does not arrive on time. His next step will be to purchase a gun and ask the seller how to use it. When Wednesday arrives, he goes to the agreed upon meeting location to meet with Mike. He hands John the papers, and tells him that he wants them too much and that his desperation will lead to a mistake. John starts selling his furniture, and ignoring his brother whenever he comes by to check on him. When he takes Luke to the park one afternoon, they receive an invitation to his friend Carrie's birthday party, which will be held in a few days. Later, John returns to his investigation, and when he notices a new vehicle passing by the prison, he discovers the key to carrying out his plan, the medical vans. John investigates Laura's type of diabetes, follows the van around to study its schedule, and searches the internet for instructions on how to unlock a car with a tennis ball. The following day, he uses the ball method to break into the medical van and photograph his wife's tests, which he later edits on the computer to make her appear sicker than she actually is. The next time she visits Laura, she has terrible news. In 3 days she'll be transferred to a high-security facility. Now John must revise his entire strategy to fit into such a short amount of time. Because he hasn't sold the house yet, the main issue is money, so he grabs his gun and drives to a bank with the intent of robbing it. But in the end, he can't bring himself to do it. Following that, he returns to Laura to inform her that he is attempting to appeal her transfer, and admits that he hasn't spent much time with Luke. Laura is enraged because John refuses to accept reality and continues to live in a fantasy world where there is still hope for her. So, in order to get him to give up, she tells him she killed her coworker before leaving the room. But John still doesn't believe her, so he requests another meeting with her and swears he'll get her out. When night falls, John returns to the criminal neighborhood and follows one of the dealers to the house of his provider Alex, determined to get the money he requires. When he spots an opening, he grabs the dealer and pushes him inside, causing the guard dog to bite his leg. Alex runs upstairs, claiming he has a child in the house. John follows him, using the dealer as a shield, which turns out to be a good idea, because Alex has actually come up to grab his own gun. When Alex comes after John, the dealer takes the bullet for him, and John manages to shoot him first. After that, John searches the rooms and discovers a bag full of cash, but on his way out, he discovers the dealer is still alive and asking for help. We now return to the beginning, with John transporting the bleeding dealer in his car, which has a broken taillight. He considers taking him to the hospital, but the dealer dies before he can make a decision. John gets rid of him by leaving his body at a bus stop, and then going to a specific parking lot to cut the fence. Alex's house burns down, and the police arrive to investigate, discovering blood on the floor and pieces of a broken taillight as evidence. In the meantime, John spends the night at his parents' house. When John's father goes to put his bag away, he discovers the plane tickets and deduces what John intends to do. The next morning, John makes sure Luke gives his grandparents a good hug because it will be their last, and John's father also gives him a hug, wishing him an emotional goodbye. Today, John is finally ready to put his plan into action. After packing up, and throwing away all the paperwork related to his planning in 2 separate trash bags, he stops by the med center and cuts all their phone lines. Then he breaks into the van, and replaces her blood tests with the ones he forged. Luke is dropped off at Carrie's birthday party. Before leaving, he informs the girl's mother that Luke has the phone number of his grandparents in his jacket, in case John is late. They see the fake blood results at the hospital, and because they can't call the lab to double check, the doctor requests that Lara be transferred so she can be kept under observation. Meanwhile, the cops obtain the car model from the broken taillight and trace it back to John. They go to his house and discover the strange state of what used to be his planning wall. When they receive word from the station that Lara has been transferred to the hospital, the detectives request escorts and rush to the hospital, considering John's intentions. However, John arrives at the hospital before them, and enters Lara's room by wearing a coat and posing as a doctor. He threatens the cops with his gun and convinces them to uncuff Lara before tying them up, but Lara refuses to accompany him. To convince her, John offers his phone so she can call Luke and inform him that neither of his parents will be returning. Lara accepts to leave because she has no other option, and changes into the clothes John has brought for her. The two of them then enter a lift. John and Lara remove their white coats and enter the lobby, but the detectives are already there. John presses another button to advance to the next floor. When they arrive, instead of exiting, John places their coats near the stairs before re-entering the lift. The cops now believe they took the stairs to the parking lot and fled, but the couple returned to the lobby and exited through the front door. They make it onto the subway before the cops catch up with them, but because John knows cops will be waiting for them at the next station, he quickly applies the emergency brake. He and Lara exit the train, which has stopped right next to the parking lot John visited the night before. They sneak in through the hole he cut on the fence, and get in the car John had already stashed there. They successfully cross the first bridge, so the next step is to pick up Luke. Unfortunately, John misses a small detail that he only discovers when he stops at Carrie's house. The party is at the zoo, and they haven't returned yet. While the cops investigate John's neighborhood and discover the trash bag containing his planned papers, John drives to the zoo, only to unexpectedly switch roads. He does not believe they will be able to pick him up in time before the roads are closed, so they may leave Luke to be picked up by his grandparents and return for him later. Lara despises the idea and refuses to live without her child, opening the car door to expose her head to the road. After nearly colliding with a truck, John pulls over and reconnects with Lara, finally agreeing to go for their son. They drive to the zoo, and after picking up Luke, they must find a way to cross the checkpoint without being discovered. Fortunately, John comes up with an idea. He goes to the train station, and picks up an elderly couple to offer them a ride. Guards at the checkpoint are only looking for a young couple with a child for the time being, so they are able to cross safely. After dropping the elders off in town, they travel to a Canadian airport, and pass through passport control just as their pictures appear on the wanted list, and the new guard is unaware they're inside due to a change in shifts. The cops put the paper pieces they found in John's trash together, and discover a picture of Haiti, so they send a team to stop all flights to that country, to no avail. Quinnen realizes that they only discovered half of the plan, because John purposefully left this bag behind with a false clue to delay them. Meanwhile, the family boards a plane bound for Venezuela. A few days later, John and Lara are living happily with Luke in Caracas. Detective Quinnen returns to the crime scene with a new theory. It had been raining the night of the murder, and no one had taken that into account. Lara claims she discovered the murder weapon, a fire extinguisher, on the floor and moved it, and that was how she got blood on her jacket. She never saw the body, but on her way out, she ran into the killer and lost a jacket button, which was never found and was never used as evidence. However, if it had rained that day, the water could have dragged the button down the drain. Quinnen searches the drain but finds nothing, but the button is right there, just out of reach, and Lara has been innocent all along. So this was the story of the film The Next 3 Days, released in 2010. If you like the story, then do watch the full film, and if you want to watch more such amazing recaps, then do subscribe to our channel. See you in the next recap.